Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Tea Time with Tuskeh. It's Monday, the 27th of September, so sit back, relax with a cup of tea, and let's chat WoW news, content, and discussion. But this time, we are joined by a guest. Please welcome to the show, Tamsin of Legacy Reborn.
Hi guys! I hope y'all are having a great day, and it is a pleasure to be on with Tuskeh today.
Indeed. So, before we get started, we'll be doing all of our normal segments as usual, but we're just going to be doing it together, and we have a few special questions for Tamsin, who is a very skilled healer in the guild. So just introduce yourself, and let's know a little bit about you and your role in Legacy Reborn.
I am a priest in Legacy Reborn. I was formerly Disc, which I wasn't a big fan of, but thankfully this expansion I got to go Holy. Although I must say the Disc changes, I actually do somewhat like Disc this time, so I've been playing with both. I have been playing a Holy Priest since BC, and some incarnation of Priest throughout. I've played probably every healer in the game at some point, because DPS, not my thing. And I also have tanked in the incarnation of a Warrior and a Paladin.
So without further ado, let's get into the news. So the big tuning tweaks are in. Blizzard did state yesterday that they were not final, but now they are, and they have made a few changes from yesterday's notes. So first of all, Shadow Priests have seen some different tweaks so that they're not quite as reliant on Surrender to Madness, and it will also include the reversion, thankfully, of the note that prevented Void Torrent from generating Insanity, so it will continue to do that now, so you're not completely out of luck, Shadow Priests. And secondly, Havoc Demon Hunters have still been nerfed, but not nearly as badly as it seemed. I spoke to the Demon Hunter in the guild, asked him what he thought about it, and he was not very happy with the original changes. But now it just seems like they've been toned down a little bit. And some other classes have seen some buffs as well, which is great. The Mythic Emerald Nightmare has opened up, alongside the first LFR wing, the Dark Bow, which will let you face Nythendra, Elaretha Renfarel, and Il'gynoth, Heart of Corruption, in Looking for Raid difficulty. Even if you're a heroic or even a mythic raider, you're probably going to want to do these, because about 5 minutes before turning on the recording for this video, our guild leader raged in guild chat about how someone in a random LFR got a legendary, so you're probably going to want to do that.
I did cry a little bit when I saw that.
Yeah, that was painful. And finally, the Warcraft movie has been released on DVD in the US. It'll be out soon-ish for the EU, but if you do pick it up, you will get the Medivh hero in Hearthstone, the Gul'dan hero in Heroes of the Storm, and a free digital copy of World of Warcraft, which, I mean, if you're watching this video, then you probably already have World of Warcraft, so give it to a friend. So those are the big pieces of news for the day. Moving on to the daily tip. So today's daily tip will be coming from Tamsin herself.
Alright, my daily tip is always be nice to people. It doesn't matter if it's in a dungeon, standing around your faction's main city. You never know when you're going to make a friend with somebody. And I've made so many friends just in dungeons, giving somebody a helpful tip, or saying, to a tank that did a good job, hey, great tanking. It doesn't matter who they are. There's a person behind the keyboard, as Tuskeh is wont to say.
Absolutely.
That person, that may make their day to have somebody say something nice. Or if somebody asks a question in trade chat, if it's a legitimate question, just whisper them with an answer. But trolling? Now, trolls are fair game. So insert an evil cackle here, and good luck.
Indeed. As Tamsin said, there is always another person there. And you never know when you're going to find another friend, and the only way to do that is to be kind and respectful and thoughtful. And that might sound a bit cliched, but seriously, it works. So try it. Moving on to the screenshot of the day. This is where we look at a screenshot that is cool, pretty, or interesting. You can send in screenshots via twitter.com/Tuskeh or simply mail them to me. So today's screenshot comes in from Josh Barnhart, who not only has a fantastic name, but also writes, "A fire mage is born," and then not played again for weeks. But at least he is pretty. I really like this. I'm not a big fan of the Blood Elves in general, which I'm sure Tamsin hates me for because she is big into the Blood Elves, but I do really like this picture. This is where the Fire Mage quest chain for their artifact ends. It's where they pick up Fellow Malorn, and it's just generally really pretty, using a couple of toys to make it look really cool. So I really like it.
It's very Phoenix Reborn, with all the flames and the wings coming up from the ashes. And hey, you may not play it, but like you said, it looks pretty. And we have a saying in the horse world, that a horse can be outstanding. He's outstanding in his field. So you are outstanding in your field.
Very good. And yeah, I do like it. And like you said, the Phoenix thing is very cool. It's very reminiscent of Kael'thas back in the Burning Crusade and in Warcraft 3 with all of his Phoenix and fire-based stuff. So very, very nice. Again, if you have your own screenshots, you can send them in via twitter.com/Tuskeh or simply mail them to me. And now moving on to the Q&A, otherwise known as the whole reason why I brought Tamsin in for this, because I can't answer these questions by myself. So you can send in questions... So you can send in questions via twitter.com/Tuskeh, you can email them to me, or simply leave them in comments on Tea Time videos. So the first question comes in from Pixel Poro, who asks, I've just picked up a priest and I want to play Holy. My questions are, other than Icy Veins, are there any other websites you would recommend for guides and weak auras and things like that for the priest class? So before Tamsin answers this, I just want to point out that Icy Veins is a very good starting point for most players, but if you really want to get into more detail regarding your classes and specializations, you'll definitely want to branch out a little bit. So, Tamsin, what advice do you have?
As far as websites go, the Priest Discord is a fantastic place to find information, and not only find information, but to ask questions. One of my personal favorite sites is Automatic Jack, who has been a holy priest for a very long time, and you can find his site at automaticjack.com, and he has some lovely guides that, have help with your talent trees and how to spec your artifacts. And another one, of course, is howtopriest.com, which has also been around for a while and has some very good resources. And then there's everybody's good old favorite, the MMO forums, which sometimes you have to take with a grain of salt, but it's a great place to find weak auras, which is a add-on that you are going to want to have, because that will track everything. Along with weak auras, I recommend a Raid Frames with Click or Voodoo. I personally use Voodoo because I like how I can configure it. And along with that, boss mods. Boss mods are your friends. If you are going to be healing a fight and there's a big portion of damage coming, you're going to want to know when that is coming. You're going to want to know when you have to move from bad. So, bigwigs, deadly boss mods, choose your poison, just make sure you have one.
Absolutely, and I feel like, as someone who has healed in the past, knowing when that big burst of damage is going to come in is very important, because especially on the harder difficulties, when those big bursts of damage can almost one-shot a tank or someone in the raid or something like that, it's nice to be able to precast your heals and get that big long cast time heal out so that it comes in right as the damage comes out.
Agreed. And while Twitch healing is a thing of the past, you don't really want to be wasting your time. You want to ABC healing. Always be casting.
Absolutely.
A lot of it too is just going to be trial and error. Try, see how you like it, see what your personal preference is, and go from there.
Alright, so the next two questions come in from Walter Furrer, who asks, healing officers, or healing leaders, whatever you want to call them, on a raid team. How popular do you think they are? Is it a role that still exists, or has it transitioned to being part of the raid leader's job? If it is still viable to have one on your raid team, what makes a good healing officer? So, let's start off by stating that Legacy Reborn, which is the guild that me and Tamsin are both members of, does have a healing officer. We also have a raid leader and a guild leader. Those are two separate roles. So, let's start with healing officers and healing leaders. Is it still viable to have one in the raid team?
It is most definitely still viable, and actually very helpful, because the raid leader is not necessarily a healer as well, and may not have the knowledge of the healing classes and CDs and quirks that a healer might. So a healer could definitely plan CD usage better. And as well, raid leader, they have to watch everything. And so it takes a good load off of them if they don't have to worry about the healing as well.
Absolutely. So let's go into a little bit more detail there. So what exactly does a healing officer do?
A healing officer, and again, this depends on your guild and what, you guys do as a whole. When I was standing in for our healing officer in Legacy Reborn while he was in Germany, basically having CDs mapped out for each fight, how we were going to do them, what comp I was going to use per fight, and just basically being able to call things on the fly, knowing the fights is very important. But you really just want, as a healing leader, to have a general knowledge of how each class plays, You don't need to, per se, have one of every single class, raid on every single healing class, but you do really want a general knowledge so that you can map out strats around the class strengths and weaknesses. And if there's something you don't know, ask your healers. They are a great source of information because they're playing the class, which would hopefully mean that they, know the ins and outs of their class.
Absolutely. And I think another important note here is to kind of create a small community of the healers, because I know that Legacy Reborn, for instance, has a healer channel where you can discuss strategies and small things that you might not want to clog up your voice chat with, and at the same time you can complain about your tanks and other people standing in fire.
Oh, we never do that. What are you talking about? But Tuskeh is right. A healing channel is fantastic because you don't want to be discussing this over everybody in Mumble. I've been in a guild that use healer binds, which can get a bit messy, but the healing channel is nice because you can put all your healer needs in there, and it does sort of make a little community feel to your healers, which is important because healing is one of those things where it's a team effort and a team job. There's no one single healer that can do everything.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way of putting it. That's pretty much how every class works these days. They've all got their strengths and weaknesses, and if you want to start beating bosses in any difficulty, you've got to start by working together. The next question coming from Walter Furrer asks, I'm interested in bringing the idea up to my raid leader of becoming the healing officer, and as one of the healers, as well as an officer within the guild, I would be interested in taking the role. However, I have limited class knowledge, as I've only healed as a Restoration Shaman throughout Warlords of Draenor, and I'm currently maining a Holy Priest for Legion. I'm always looking to learn, of course, but I have limited time to level alts and play them during endgame content. So, we kind of already answered this. Tamsin was talking about how you don't need super in-depth information and knowledge about how each class plays in the moment to moment, but my personal recommendation would be knowing what every cooldown for each of the healers does.
Agreed, and add into that, know what the strong points of each healing class is, as well as the weak points. If you have a Holy Paladin, they're going to excel at something different than a Resto Shaman or a Druid. So just sort of have a basic knowledge of the class play. You don't need to have every single tip or trick. You don't need to be, world first, number one best of each single healer, but do have a basic knowledge of their playstyle.
Absolutely. So Walter Furrer goes on to ask, my second question is regarding the roles of each healer in a raid. So my raid team is comprised of 21 players, which includes 2 tanks, 5 healers, and 14 damage dealers. As far as healers, we have a Holy Priest, which is me, a Restoration Shaman, a Holy Paladin, and 2 Restoration Druids. I know that in earlier expansions and iterations of World of Warcraft, it was popular to have a designated tank healer, and then designated ranged or melee healers or even different group healers. Do you feel that still holds true? And if it does, which classes are best suited for each role? So this is definitely a question for Tamsin because I would not be able to answer this one.
Thankfully, the healer designation as far as a dedicated tank or raid healer has pretty much disappeared. Classes do sort of lean to being a little bit better at something. For example, paladins have beacon, druids have all hots, but any class can now make a decent tank healer or raid healer via what choices they take in their talents and play style. So I would say, again, this goes back to teamwork. If you see your tank going down, throw a heal on him. As a Holy Priest, you could easily throw, a Holy Word Serenity on him. A Druid can keep Life Bloom. Shaman can have Riptide. But there's really no, okay, this class is a tank healer. As it used to be, Paladins, Holy Paladins in BC and even Wrath, they were the tank healer. Druids were the raid healer. Holy Priests were the raid healer. Thankfully, WoW has moved away from that playstyle, which really does allow for more freedom of what you can bring to a raid. You aren't sort of pigeonholed into bringing certain classes.
Yes, and that's definitely good because I know that Blizzard have stated several times over the last few years in expansions that it's more about bringing the player as opposed to bringing the class.
I think that has definitely been for the better for raids because you no longer are sort of stuck playing a class that you may not necessarily enjoy, but that's what you're forced to play to go to a raid.
Exactly. And before we finish off the Q&A, let's just do a kind of a general pieces of advice for any healer. So you've got plenty of experience healing, and I'm just curious what advice you would have for any healer out there who just wants to improve.
The best thing I can tell you is practice. It's like anything in life. The more you do it, the more you're going to improve. And ask questions. If you know somebody that, has more experience, or again, Priest Discord is always happy to answer questions. I tend to gravitate towards the Priest Discord over something like MMO forums, just because the attitude there is about wanting to help players. And I mean, you're more than welcome to mail Tuskeh and ask me. I'm always happy to help anybody.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that we'll get plenty of emails and questions from folks that I will not be able to answer. So thank you very much for that, Tamsin.
My pleasure.
And just as one final note, all of the resources that Tamsin mentioned, so Automatic Jack, How to Priest, the Priest Discord, the MMO Champion forums, and all of the different add-ons that she suggested, so Weak Auras, Click, Voodoo, and the different boss mods, there will all be links in the description, so you can go and check that out if you want. So that will conclude the Q&A. As always, if you have questions, especially about priests that I can't answer, so that I have to bother Tamsin about it, then you can send them in via twitter.com/Tuskeh, you can email me, or you can leave them in comments in Tea Time videos. So, to conclude today's Tea Time, let's have a piece of music from the Opera House. So before we started, I asked Tamsin what piece of music she would like to play at the end of this video, and she suggested the Elite Tauren Chieftains.
At which point I thought Tuskeh was going to pass out.
Well, I think about the Elite Tauren Chieftains, and I don't think quiet, relaxing tea time. Let me put it like that.
Well, add a little something to your tea and get your day started.
Well, that's certainly one way to do it. So that will be the piece of music for the day. So thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions for the show, any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, then you can contact me using the links in the description, or you can just leave a comment. If you want to help support the channel, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description as well.
Thank you for having me on, Tuskeh. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. We will definitely do this again, assuming that my YouTube comments don't hate you.
Oh, please don't hate me.
Don't hate Tamsin. She's lovely and a really great priest. She'll be carrying us through all the mythic dungeons.
Oh, you're so sweet.
That is until I kill you by running over you.
Hey, if you gotta burn a priest at the stake, you gotta do what you gotta do. Bye, y'all.
Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you the best of luck in the World of Warcraft.
Storm, earth, and fire, heed my call. To the wash